Hey, it's Brian at Legit Betting Edge. And today I just want to talk, I'm out at the park, shoot from the hip here, but I want to talk to you about a simple betting angle as I try to hold this phone still. A simple betting angle last year in the NFL, okay? So if you're not good at numbers, if you don't like doing math, if you're having problems finding winners, you may look into this because it's a simple way to do it. And you sometimes you can find some real gems. And I'm going to tell you what this is. So you got the Las Vegas Raiders, right? So last year, the teams that played the Raiders in Las Vegas, the very next game that they played, those teams, they didn't cover. They lost those games 6-2. So if you bet against the teams that played the Raiders, whether they won or lost, whether they beat the Raiders or they lost to the Raiders in Las Vegas, where I am right now in the heat, and you bet against them in the very next week, you'd have gone 6-2 blindly. That's not even checking any numbers. It doesn't matter. You just auto bet the team that played the Raiders in Vegas, wherever they went, whether they were home, whether they were away, whether they were a favorite, whether they were a dog. It doesn't matter. If you bet against those teams, you would have won 6 out of 8 times. Obviously, teams have 8 home games every year. So, as I continue to shake this camera, I apologize for that. But now, I'll give you another example, and I haven't looked at these lately, but I did it for this video because I knew it would be a good subject for people who don't like to work on models and are having trouble finding winners. This is kind of a beginner thing. It does take some work because you're going to want to look in and you're going to want to see some patterns developing. You wouldn't do this right out of the gate. You'd have to look at it a couple of weeks and then kind of get an assumption of what's happening. But if you did this and you did some digging, you'd find some gems. I'll give you another example. A couple of years ago, 2015, the Houston Rockets, I believe it was the first or second year James Harden was there. But what I looked at is they were favored by double digits in 13 games that year. Okay, and in 13 games that year, if you'd have bet the first half blindly, Houston Rockets, blindly first half, you'd have gone 11-2. 11-2, Houston Rockets, first half when they were favored by more than 10. Okay, so that's something to look at, right? And it doesn't matter if they were home or away, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who they were playing. Favored by 10 or more, you bet them, auto bet first half, and you won that 11 out of 13 times. That's a way to make big profits, right? So there are simple ways to do it. You don't have to be a math genius. You don't have to be a monster, but you do have to spend time. Now, going back to the Raiders last year in the NFL, funny thing, they played a bunch of winning teams. They had a tough schedule. 2 teams that covered the next week after they played the Raiders, one was the Broncos and the other one was the Chargers. They both had losing records, right? All the other winning teams couldn't cover the next week. So whether they were on the road or home. So that's another story. But again, you look a little deeper, you find some more trends. So it's just a process of scouring through spreads, numbers, teams, opponents. You don't have to be a math genius. You're just looking at the final closing number. You can go to covers.com and do that, dig that stuff up. And you can find patterns every year, every season on certain teams. And what you do is you can blindly bet those teams. Now, I don't do that, but what I would do is I would take a look and see why. So I might even do this. So I would look at the team they're playing next, the teams that lost to the Raiders. If I was going to do some research on this, I would look at the teams that played the Raiders, the teams that those teams were going to play next, and I'd look for what they had in common and why those teams came up and covered against whatever team lost or won or lost against the Raiders the week before. So if you go a little bit deeper, you find more solid, more clear answers. Now, if you just betting blindly, of course, that's the way to go. I just gave you 2 examples. But if you did a little more research, you'd probably start becoming pretty good at doing research and numbers and be able to identify a winner a lot easier. So there is a little more work involved in that, but I'm just talking about scraping the surface with an angle. If you go a little deeper on the angle, the same way I talked about trends in another video, if you're looking at a trend, you want to know why that trend is going that way. You don't want to just blindly bet the trend. But on an angle, that's different. An angle is simple. Teams that played the Raiders in Vegas, whatever they play the next week, you go against it, and you went 6-2 last year. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen in 2021. Obviously, there was COVID last year, so you can't say it's Las Vegas. Nothing was open in Vegas. Were they partying? Is Vegas a party city? It is. It's a 24-hour city. But again, you just don't know. So that's why you want to go dig a little deeper. If you're going to do something like this long term, you want to dig deeper on those numbers. So anyway, I hope this helped you. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to my video channel, leave a comment below, and let's have a conversation about it. I'd love to do that. Let me know what you thought. Appreciate you watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.